All right, class. There is a question on how to tackle equations of higher degrees. So I am going to do this video for you. Hopefully, it helps you and you get it in time for your test. Okay. By the way, you do have a test this Friday from 2 to 4, so make sure that you review your assignments. Even if you are done, redo some of the problems to get ready for that. Alrighty, so the first thing we want to do, oh, by the way, this is from page 22b, problems 143 through 151. And the question is, how do we solve problems of higher degrees? Okay. So always read the direction, and when I read the directions, it says find all real solutions of the equation. Check your solutions in the original equation. So there are two things that you have to do. You have to find all the real solutions, and you have to check your answers. Okay, so make sure that you do that when you do your homework. Basically, I read that because I want to know if I am allowed to use any methods, and the answer is I can use anything I want because it did not specify which method to use. Okay. So what is the strategy? Again, if they don't specify anything, then you are going to use the easiest and simplest method that you can think of for that problem. Okay, for as long as it works, you can use it. The problem is that a lot of students don't know their methods very well, and so because of that, then they don't know what to use. But if you are good with your factorization, if you are good with completing the square, if you are good using the quadratic formula, or if you are very good at using decimals, then you can use any of those methods. All right, so having said that, I am going to go ahead and do 3 problems for you. The first one is number 143. X to the third minus 3x squared minus x plus 3 equal to 0. I noticed that I have 4 terms. So if you remember in Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, if you have 4 terms, you could always try factorization. Okay, so I'm going to try that. Okay, so I'm going to group the first 2 terms together, and I group the last 2 terms together, and because this is a minus, I need to change that. So I'm essentially factoring a -1 here. Okay, so that's where you got to change that sign. Once you do that, we are going to find the GCF for each term. Okay, so the GCF for the first group is x to the second. Okay, that's common for 2x to the third minus 3x squared, and that's going to leave me with an x, and then this one here is going to be a 3. Okay, and then I have a -1 here, and this is x minus 3. All right, so how do you know if you are using the right method? Well, right now, if you look, you will notice that this term and that term, they are the same. Okay, so they are the same thing, so you know you are on the right track. Okay, the last thing is to finish your factoring problem. So we are going to go ahead and write down the common term, which is your x minus 3, and then the other 2 terms is the x squared minus the 1. Okay, and that's going to be equal to 0. This is called factoring by grouping. Okay, and okay, so now that you have factored the problem, there is one more thing that you could do, because if you want to factor completely, because x squared minus 1 is actually difference of squares. Okay, so you could actually do one more step if you want. You don't have to, because they didn't ask you to solve to use the method of factoring, so you can factor enough until you can do the problem. Okay, but if you wanted to, you could also do this. Okay, so do one more step. Okay, so now you see that you have 3 factors. So basically, you're going to have 3 answers. And you do know that the highest degree of your, not the highest, but the degree of your polynomial tells you how many answers you should have. And you have 3 factors, that means you have 3 answers. You have x minus 3 equal to 0, you have x plus 1 equal to 0, and you have x minus 1 equal to 0. So your answers are going to be x equal to 3, x equal to -1, and x equal to 1. So those are your 3 answers for the problem. Okay, so this is a problem where you have 4 terms, so you can try me. Anytime I have 4 terms, the first thing I always do is I try to factor it. Okay, and if it doesn't work, then you can try something else. All right, so that's for that problem. And 147. Okay, 147. You have x to the 4th minus 4x squared plus 3 equal to 0. And I noticed I have 1, 2, 3 terms. Okay, so when I have 3 terms, I am going to think of a quadratic formula. I'm going to think about factorization or completing the square. And if I look at the highest power, I notice that I have a 4. So I know that I can't use the quadratic formula unless I have a degree 2 polynomial or equation. And so then I'm going to see if I can, simplify this problem a little bit and transform it into something that I know how to do, okay? So I'm going to use a little dummy variable. I'm going to let my a be equal to x squared, and I'm going to rewrite the equation. So if I let a equal to x squared, then my equation reduces down to a squared minus 4a plus 3 equal to 0. And now I notice that I can factor this quite easily. That's what we call a basic trinomial. Okay, so if I take a and multiply by a, I get a squared. And I need to think of two numbers. When I multiply, I get positive 3. And when I add, I get negative 4. Okay, so two numbers, when you multiply, you get positive 3. And when you add, you get negative 4, would be negative 1 and negative 3. Okay, so that's how you factor this problem. And now that you get that, you can go ahead and solve, because there's nothing else that you can do here. So your a minus 1 has to be equal to 0, or a minus 3 has to be equal to 0. And you get a equal to 1 here and a equal to 3 there. But don't forget that you use a as a dummy variable. So you're really looking at x squared equal to 1 and x squared equal to 3 here. So you need to make sure that you take the square root and get your answers. Okay, plus or minus 1 and plus or minus radical 3. Okay, so you have 4 answers. Highest degree is a 4, so you know that you should have 4 answers. All right, so that's this one here. This one again involves just using a dummy variable to reduce the problem to something that you know how to do. Okay. All right, now excuse me, I woke up this morning with a sore throat, and I've been just having okay, all right, 151. Okay, so this is a 6-degree equation, and when I look at this, I could totally do the same thing I did earlier. Okay, I could let my a be equal to x to the third and try to see if I can factor it. Okay, all right, so if I did that, then I would have a squared plus 7a minus 8 equal to 0. And again, using my little trick that I used earlier, 8 times a is a squared. Two numbers that when I multiply, I get negative 8. And when I add, I get a 7. We're looking at positive 8 and negative 1. Okay. All right. And I am done. So I now can solve the problem. A plus 8 is equal to 0, or a minus 1 is equal to 0. Okay, a is equal to negative 8 and a is equal to 1, but my a is actually x to the third. So don't forget that last step. Oops. Just need a 1. Okay, so we gotta take the third root. Okay, taking the third root. Third root. So my x is equal to a negative 2 here, and my x is equal to a 1. So those should be your answers. Okay, so this is how I would do these problems. But what if you didn't know that you could use a dummy variable to reduce the problem to something which is doable? Okay, so like I said before, because they did not specify a method, you can use any method that you want, including decimals. So I'm going to show you how you do this problem in decimals. Okay, all right, where's decimals? There you go. Hello. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and enter the equation down. So I have x to the 6th power, and then was it a plus 7, x to the 3rd, and then minus an 8. Okay, that was the left side of the equation, and then the right side of the equation is a 0, so I'm just going to put a 0 down. Okay, All right. Oh, I could actually put y equal 2, but I'm not going to. So let's just see if it recognizes that the second one is an equation also. Okay, so I need to put my y equal to 0 down. Okay, so now in the first one, I'm just going to just put the y equal to. So I'm entering them at two functions. Anyway, so the red graph is actually the graph of the 6-degree function there, and the blue line is actually the graph of y equal to 0, which all of you know is a horizontal line, and where they intersect, the blue line and the red graph, where they intersect are where your solution should be. And we already found the solutions. We said it was 1 and -2, and if you look, they are, they do intersect at -2, and they do intersect at +1, which are the answers that we found when we did the problem algebraically. So this is solving the equation by using graphing technology. And then, of course, you could also do it by using algebra that we did earlier. So something that, something different. Just know that you should actually have 6 answers, but they are only asking for the real solutions. So the real solutions are where the x-intercept, okay? So there are basically 2 real solutions. They are -2 and 1, and there are 4 other imaginary solutions. So if you do it by hands, you will see that there are 4 other answers. But that's something that you should know. All right, so I hope that this helps you in terms of how do you tackle these higher degree equations, okay? Alrighty, if you have any more questions, send them my way. Thank you.